Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are starting this series called Building Git from Scratch. Videos will be in two parts. First part will be how it works behind the scenes so that you can implement in the language you are most comfortable with. And second part we'll implement whatever we discussed in the part 1 of the video using the Go. Without wasting much time, let's get right into the video. So the first command that we will be discussing is git init. This is not just any command. This is the command where git magic begins. So when we write this command and execute it, it will create this folder structure. This is not just any random folder structure. This is how .git folder structure is there in your directories where you have initialized the git. These directories and files have specific meaning attached to it. So let's discuss them one by one to understand the why of git init. So first is objects. Objects is like Git database. It stores all the content in a repository like files, commits, tree, folder structure, tags like release version, what changes have been released till now, in a compressed and hashed objects. And these objects are usually of four types. First is blob, which is to store the source code, text file, etc. And second is trees to store the folder structure. Commits is like the current snapshot of your code changes plus the metadata is like who, when, who is like who did this commit, when we did this commit, why, basically the commit message, and from which point we have taken this branch. All these things related to a commit is stored. And tag is to store the release versions, what changes have been released till now, basically to show the developer that these changes have been released and whatever above this is in development, not tested, like that. So these objects have properties. What is, they are immutable. We don't change them, we create a copy, update it instead of making changes on the same original copy. Content addressable means we address it according to the content. For example, hello world. So we'll do a SHA1 hashing of this. We'll have some address. According to that, we'll store it. And whatever the content of this file is, it will be stored in a compressed and a binary format. So this is what objects directory is used for. So second is heads directory, which is used to store the branch reference. Branch reference means if we have a main branch, to what is the hash of the latest commit. This is what it stores. That's why it is inside the ref, because it's storing the reference of the latest commit which this branch is pointing to. So let's say inside the head there will be a main branch. This file will contain this hash, and this would mean that this main branch is pointing to this commit. So when we make a new commit, a commit object will be added to the objects directory, and the commit hash will be updated in the main if we are pushing the changes in the main. So a new hash will be replaced over here. So this is how our Git will know what is the tip of the each branch, what is our branch currently pointing to. Third is tags inside the ref directory. It is same as heads, that's why they are both inside the refs. What tags store is the reference of a specific commit. For example, if we have this file version 1.0.0 in under tags and we have this hash, so this means that this tag points to this specific commit. That's it. This is usually used to show that we have marked this version or we have released this version. So Basically branches move, we delete the branches, but tags are not deleted. These are to show that up to this specific commit, this is being released to the customer, or whatever cycle we are using, just to have a permanent bookmark that this version mean up to this commit, this specific commit we have released. So fourth one is head. This is a file inside my my git directory or .git directory. So this stores the current branch we are working on, or current branch that we have checked out. What is it is used for is when we do a commit, so git gets to know that this is where we are currently pointing to, and same update is made to that branch. Just a reference point to which we are working on. And last one is index. It is a file inside my git directory, .my git directory or .git directory. So this is, in simple word, staging area where we marked changes to staging which we have verified that code wise they are fine. Then we move to them to the staging area where we finally commit. So this is the area where we stage all those files. So when you do something like git add file.txt, it goes to the index. And when we do git commit, so whatever files are there in that index will be going in that commit. So it's like a area where we park all those files that we have verified that these are ready to go in our commit. So this is our staging area. Now let's come to the coding part. So this is our main.go from where our program execution starts. So we'll catch the arguments or the string that we are passing in the terminal using this os.arguments. So what we'll check is this should be of at least this length, because you see when we use a git command we write git init git add. So this is that prefix and this is the command. So the length should be this much at least, and these are the arguments that we can pass to this command, like commit -m message, so something like that you can do. So we'll extract the command and the arguments, and we have implemented this switch over command because we'll implement other commands like init, add, commit, log, etc. So for init, what we have discussed, for init command we'll invoke this method called init with the arguments that we have extracted. So let's see what we are doing in our init function. So if we write something like this, then we'll make this the target directory, whatever is mentioned over here. But usually we write this my git init. So we don't pass the directory where we want to initialize this .git folder. So we'll initialize in the current working directory. So we get that current working directory and store it in the target directory. And what we are doing over here is creating an instance of a repo in code, and we check if this is already created or not, if this repo is already created or not. If it is not created, we initialize this repo. So let's see what we are initializing when we creating a new repo instance. So over here we have this struct which have properties working directory and git directory. Working directory is the directory where we are initializing this git repository. So when we invoke this method, we are populating work directory with the directory which is either passed in the argument, or we found it using our current working directory method over here. and git directory is inside that working directory. Basically, if A is the folder, then inside it will be subcat directory name mygit. So this is the path of that mygit. So this is what we are doing over there. As we know, this method tells if this repository exists or not. So let's see how we are doing this. So what this method does is this gives the information about this whatever present at this directory. So we don't need information, that's why we are not catching that. We are checking if we have an error, and in the error what this method is checking is that does that error message contain not found or non-existing, something like that. Because when we are accessing the information at this directory, if the directory is not there, it will contain not found or non-existing. If that is there, if it is true, and it will negate to false. So does this repository exist? False. So we'll create a .git folder. If it's false, that it doesn't contain that not found or non-existing error, it negates to true. Does this repo exist? So we'll say yes. So we'll not create the repo again. So this is what this not existing exists function does. Now coming to the init, when we are initializing a repository in our machine, so let's see what we are doing. Now, as we discussed, when we hit that init function, we initialize directories and file. So I have made the constant. So here we are initializing our mygit or .git, whatever you want to name it, our object directory, our ref directory, our heads directory, our tags directory, and these two files, and these two are inside one directory called refs. I have added in the constant. So making a slice of all the directories so that I can make it in one go, and over here I am making all the directories. And now here we have created our directories. We have to create two files also, index file and head file. So what we are doing over here is we are creating a head path, basically path where this head file will be created, and this is the content. As we discussed, this stores what is the current branch we are checked out, or current branch we are working. So we'll add this because we are in main when we initialize, and we'll create this file if it's not there. This is what this method does if it's not there. And what this over here means is the access. So over 6 over here means is the owner has read write access, group has read access, and others have read access. You can check about this. What does this mean? These are about the accesses. Same thing we would do for index file also. Over here we'll create that index file, we'll get the path, and then this function or method, will take care of that creation of that file. This will be empty because nothing is staged right now. Same thing over here. This is what we are doing, access. Same over here also. When we are making the directory, 7 is for owner, which means read write execute. Fifth is for, I think, read and execute, and 5 is also for read and execute. You can check, you can Google about these, how these access works. And if this is valid, then if without any error we reached here, then this will show that we have initialized the empty repository. So let's check our init command, how is it running. So if we write this go run cmd main init and we press enter, So you see we didn't have that directory dot my git and it created. You can see we have the directories inside the ref. We have heads, tags, and the file head and index. And let's try running the same command again, and you'll see the repository already exists. So it is working as expected. This is the end of the video, and I hope you got to learn something. I used the approach of written code instead of coding it live, as you see in other tutorials, because I think it's kind of waste of time to write the code in the video and it will become a longer video. So instead of that, I explained what I did, and it would be better if you just go through the video and try implementing it, because you will have a much better memory if you do it by your hands rather than line by line I am explaining, then you switching the code editor and writing it. You can pause the video and write it also. There are better chances that you will retain whatever things we discussed. And yeah, so this is the end of the video. I hope you liked it, and consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And if there is something that you want to say, please add it in the comment. Anything regarding which I can do better, what I am doing good, or what is the next thing you would like me to do. So yeah, you have to do what you have to do. So keep grinding, guys. See you in the next one. Bye bye.